So I was telling my son earlier, I don't separate the laundry anymore by darks and lights. And do you know how it's affected my life? I said. It's made it a little bit easier. StitchyTube! Settle down and watch StitchyTube. Hello. Saturday. Another Saturday night. I have lots of cats here. It's rainy today, kind of dark and dim. I usually try to shoot these videos like noonish or 2 just because the light is a little bit better. But honestly, today was kind of just dark, and so it doesn't really matter. But it's good to be here. I've gotten a lot done lately. Coming at you with StitchyTube lucky number 25. Lucky 25. So I've got a double list of questions this week because a couple of weeks ago I think I told you that I couldn't find the questions from the week before because I was moving all of my stuff. Well, I found it. So I'm going to do a double dose of questions. These were from questions off of StitchyTube 20. And Truly Wicked Crafts wanted to know, how do you fluff whisper threads? I might have answered this one, but I'm going to answer it again. Whisper is kind of a fuzzy fiber, and there are other fibers too that are a lot of times used for Santa beards and things like that. You can just use a toothbrush after you're done stitching, or you can use a bunka brush, and that's a toothbrush made for whisper threads essentially. But you can, it's a specific tool made for, you know, pulling up the fibers on that, and so you can use that too. You just brush it and it'll puff right up, and you can do that on things you've already framed. So if you didn't puff things and you want to take a toothbrush to it or a bunka brush, you can do that. Emily W. said, how are thread drops helpful? Did I answer all these questions? I don't know if I answered these. I'm not sure. How are thread drops helpful and how do you use them? I'm just going to answer them all again because they're all quickies. Thread drops, or just, you know, thread cards. A lot of people use these now to store your threads. Actually, you know, a lot of the threads you buy come on something like this, like a little card. And, zero. And so, they're handy for just organizing your threads and keeping them, you know, labeled. And so the way you use them, okay, you're going to have to just sit there and, he likes to be held like a baby. Okay, hang on. You get this, you put this up through the drop, and then you just pull it through the hole like that. That's how you use it. And you put them on, you can put them on rings, or, you know, put them, you could even tie them together with yarn or something like that if you wanted to. But it's just a way of labeling your threads, and they are very helpful. Lori at Mischievous Stitches, I'll put a link below, did a tutorial on how to make your own thread drops. And she has some really great ideas for how to make your own if you want to make them out of fun craft supplies. Cheryl A. wanted to know, are some threads thinner than others and can age change them? Most threads that we use for cross stitch are natural fiber threads. So we use a lot of, oh, are you still happy? You want to say hi to everybody? Here's Zero. Say hello. Most of the threads that we use these days are natural fibers. So we use silk, we use wool, we use cotton, and those kinds of threads don't last forever. They're biodegradable, I guess, because they're bio. So I remember when I was, you know, a teenager, there was a graveyard that was starting to deteriorate along the river, and things were like falling in the river. So they had to move all of the graves that were there. It wasn't a lot of them, but they said that they could tell when people were buried because people before, you know, like 1960-ish were buried in natural fiber clothing, and people after, you know, were buried in a lot of polyester, and the polyester clothes survived. And so you got to remember that, you know, threads can degrade over time, and you see it in samplers. The silks tend to hold up really well depending on what they were dyed with, and the wools don't hold up typically quite as well. Some things that you can do to make sure that your threads last a little longer is to use the right size needle. You really want your needle, when you're using it, to open a hole for your thread to go through. So if you're using a really skinny needle and it passes super easily through your hole, your threads are having to like bunch through, and it can strip tiny little pieces of your thread off. So make sure you're using a needle that opens up that hole just a little bit. There are different types of threads that are thicker and thinner, and people just kind of have their favorites and their not so favorites. Anchor threads typically are a little bit thicker than DMC, but DMC is a good quality thread too. So yes, to answer your question, some threads are thinner than others, and age can change them, but, you know, hopefully not, you know, for a long time. Sandcastle Cottage wanted to know what to do about spots in old cross stitch. I don't know if I answered these questions. Maybe I did. So you can't. There's not a lot you can do about little spots. I'm gonna turn the light up a little bit. There's not a lot that you can do about spots on your cross stitch, because you got to figure if you take it apart and you wash it, you may get the spot out depending on what it is, but you may also cause the threads to bleed. And so some people just leave them. I know what you're talking about. They just get little age spots, and a lot of times you see it on Ada, things that were framed like in the 70s and 80s. A lot of times the materials that were being used then were not acid free. They were full of acid, and so you would get these little kind of almost, they look like little burn spots. I know that Roz and Sue at the Nordic Needle used to swear by OxyClean, and they would clean hardanger, old hardanger even, in that, and said that it would come out just white as snow. But it's always a crapshoot as far as what's going to happen to your needlework. One thing that I did about a spot once, and I know I've shown this before, is this piece, Thank You Sarah Tobias by Blackbird Designs. This was a whip for a long, long time, and I hadn't finished it. And I got real motivated to finish it, and I had a spot on it of something, I don't know. So I just ended up over dyeing the whole thing after I was done stitching it. Now you can't really tell where the spot was, and I like the way it looks anyway because it looks old and grungy. Okay, so the newest questions are, what is the history on Raise the Roof Designs? And this is from Leah Noel. I was part of Raise the Roof Designs for about 10 years, I think it was. I don't remember the years. I was trying to remember, and I can't. It was like 2003 to 2013 or something like that. And Sue Reiner and I'll put a link to her channel below. She is Susie Reno, and she does FlossTube videos now too. Sue lives in rural Minneapolis, I'm going to say. She lives not too far outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. She's a good friend of mine. She started coming to my retreats when I ran them up in Fargo, and we just really hit it off. She was my roommate the very first time she came because she didn't know anybody else who was going to be there. So I said, well, you can just room with me. And we had a great time. And she had brought a really cute little kit of a kite. No, wait a minute. She made a scissor fob of a kite that said "Go Fly a Kite" on it, and then it was a kite on the other side. It was really, really cute, and she gave it to somebody as her retreat gift. And that was at a later retreat. Like, she had come to a few, and I was like, "Did you design that?" And she said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Would you? I've been thinking I should design. Do you want to design together?" And she was like, "Yes." So we stood out in the parking lot and made quick plans before she was leaving, and I don't remember which one of us said that we should be Raise the Roof, because both of us have the middle name Ray, coincidentally, so Raise the Roof. And the way that we worked is we designed our own things for the most part. A couple of times we collaborated, but mainly I would design, she would design. She handled the charting, I handled the photography and like shipping things to the distributors and things. So we kind of split up the parts of it that weren't that much fun. And we did that off and on for 10 years. And we both just got to a point where I think we just kind of felt done with it. She was, kind of feeling burned out on it. And I had, in the meantime, started reproducing samplers under Shakespeare's Peddler. And so we just kind of stopped designing, but we're still very good friends. And so that's our history. We had a whole bunch of designs, and some of them actually Hoffman Distributing still carries, and I send some to shops as well. Misty C wanted to know, what do you do with the extra fabric when you're stitching large projects? And she meant because I hold things in my hand, I bunch them up. I bunch them up in my gangly scarecrow hands, and I just hold it. And sometimes I come in from the top and bunch it this way to hold it, or I come in from the bottom, whichever way is going to mean that I'm hanging on to the least amount of fabric. I think that it can be tricky for people who have, small, petite, lovely, sweet little hands to hold a whole bunch of fabric. And it's just one of those things you're going to have to find what works for you. But for me, I can jam it all in there. Frosty Cross Stitch Dawn R said, what do you think about people selling out of print charts for $30 to $55? So this was a good question, and I don't think I've ever really talked about that on a video. She meant as a designer, like, how do I feel about it? And, you know, she kind of asked too, like, how do you feel about people who sell other people patterns, you know, for $50, but they're still available, but they say, oh, these are out of print. I have a couple thoughts on that. Number one is I fancied myself as being an economics major when I started college, and it wasn't ever anything I pursued, but I took a few classes, and the idea of supply and demand is very simple. If supply is plentiful, demand goes down and prices usually come down. So let's say that they way overprinted some, and this happens sometimes in the book world. They may have a book that they say, oh, this is going to be a huge seller, you know, pull out all the stops. They print and print and print and print way too many copies, and people don't like it. There's too many and demand is low, so they've got to bring the prices down to try to get rid of the books that they've got. And the opposite is true. So with an out of print chart, the supply is low, usually. If it's out of print and it's one of those where people are just selling it from their stash on eBay or at retreats or, you know, things on Facebook, the supply is low. And if somebody, let's say somebody on FlossTube shows it, all of a sudden demand will skyrocket and the price for those remaining charts will go way up because it can. And so people can get 50, 60. I've heard of charts going for over $200 before for an out of print chart. And it's fair. Like, I don't think that you would expect a designer to say that, but when things are rare and a lot of people want them, they get expensive. And it's true of everything. Like, there's only one Mona Lisa. And yes, it's beautiful, and yes, it's amazing, but lots of people would want it, and it's a priceless piece of art because it's super rare and demand is high. If anybody who owns the Mona Lisa has a huge number of people that want to come and see it. And so I don't have a problem with people making money. Think about, like, if you buy a used book, and you see this all the time too. It's a book that used to be in print, now it's out, and it's hard to find, but people are still really looking for it. They can get more money for it. And it's kind of a buyer beware situation. You need to educate yourself about what's available. As far as people tricking other people, I don't think it's, if you knowingly go on eBay or Stash Unload and you say, this is out of print and no one can get it anymore and no one has it, or, you know, and $50 is what I want, and they know that the distributors all have it and shops still carry it, that's not super honest. But buyer beware. Just make sure that you do your homework. So I don't really have a problem with people. I've bought books and samplers and other things like on eBay and in you know, antique shops and thrift stores and things, and it's just simple supply and demand. But that's a very good question. Okay. Oh, that was all of them. That's all my questions. I need to come up with a song for that. That wasn't good. I'll try it again sometime. Okay. So I have two FFOs, fully finished objects, and a couple that I'm working on. So UFOs. FOs. Okay, I have two FFOs and two UFOs, whips, whatever. I've got things. So this is one of those times when, you know how, like, you get to this age, and all of a sudden you, like, can't remember anything anymore. And I had this Blackbird Designs thing that I had finished, and I'm kind of starting to go around since I'm going to Galleria, and I'm thinking about, like, what kind of models can I take? What kind of models can I take to Galleria to sell charts and so people can see things? And so I had this piece that I had finished, and I had the box, and I was like, I'm just gonna go get the box and finish it up. So I, Thursday night, looked and looked and looked and looked and looked and looked for this box, and it wasn't in any of the places I thought it should be. My craft room is organized. It ended up being one of those things where it was right in front of my face, but I didn't see it. So I ended up going to Hobby Lobby and used a coupon and got luckily they had one on the shelf, and so I was able to finish it. And then, of course, when I came home, I found the box. So I have two, and I can use it because I actually like it, and I'm glad I have two. But the cool thing is that I feel like it's getting darker. I don't know. I got a new light because I'm trying to be like more professional. So this is what the box looked like. And you get it at Hobby Lobby. I think it's like $13.99. A lot of times they run these half off. Like I said, I used my 40% off coupon. It comes beat up like this. So it comes looking weathered. And then the inside is a black, kind of just a weird, meshy, weird is probably not the right word, just an unusual mesh. It almost is, it doesn't feel like a Band-Aid because it's cottony, but it's kind of Band-Aided texture, sort of. Like the stretchy Band-Aids. That's kind of what it's like, sort of. Whatever, but it's black. So that's what it looked like. And when Blackbird Designs finished it, they kept the box as it was. And then I stitched the piece, and I felt like the floss colors that it called for didn't go with this, because this is kind of a minty blue. And then the thread colors are more like, it's olive green, I would say. Kind of shades of olive. So I was like, I didn't know how I felt about that. So, are you ready to see the most beautiful box in the world? Here it is. And it turned out super cool. And I beat it up. So like I painted it. At times I was just smashing it like with a screwdriver to make it look like old and beat it up. I put, and I got paint on it, but I have sticky cork sheets. And so it won't slide or scratch whatever I put it on. So that's the top, and you can see they are kind of olive colors. And I like that it's brown. And I have another project that I finished that I'll show you, but I used the Minwax on this to make it look more like a piece of like finished wood. And this is like, I just gouged it, and then I took markers to it and Minwax and several types of paint. So that's that. And there, I added a little button because the letter T that I put in, depending on what letter of the alphabet you used from their alphabet, it would leave it. Mine left a space here where there was nothing, so I put a button to fill that little space. So then the inside of the box, remember it was black, Band-Aid black, and oh, look at how beautiful. Wait a minute. I gotta flip it over. There. All right, so you can look and see the inside. So I painted it, and I thought I was just going to paint the inside, and I wasn't happy with that. So then I repainted it, and I also wasn't happy with that. So the first color I painted it was this green, and I left that as the lip inside there. The second color I painted it was this cream, and I left that there. And I had a piece that I started, and I felt like this linen wasn't the right color, and I just had like, there's the letter S really faint, and the starting of something else, and then starting of a little flower. I just used that piece of fabric and wrapped it around a board that I cut to size. I just traced this on some chipboard, and then I just cut it like a 1/4 of an inch smaller all the way around, and then trimmed to adjust so it would fit. I did double layers of chipboard, and then hot glued around fabric. This is Blackbird Designs quilting fabric, and there's puffy padding underneath each. I did 3 layers down here so it would be a little more puffy, and 2 layers up here. And then before I hot glued this in, I had this ribbon you can get at Hobby Lobby where it has the buttons already attached, and so I cut off a length of that and hot glued it to the back, folded around the back and then hot glued the sides, and then did the same with this jute. And so you can store things in here. This is a little card of buttons I got with an order of old buttons. This was also in an order of old buttons, somebody's like little cameo, and it's just a little cheap one that they glued in there, but I thought that was kind of sweet. I'll hold it up so you can see. The red pins in there I had done for a class project, and they're just spray painted, so if you ever want to make your own pins, you can just spray paint the heck out of them, and even if it gets on the pin shaft, that's okay. And then this was something that came with one of the lots of pins that I found, and it's a needle case, and I have it tied in there. And again, this was just kind of a little finding somewhere. It's a little tape measure. And this is pinned in there, and I put a little jingly thing of buttons. But anyway, that's, I'll give you a good look. I keep shaking around. I'm going to make you guys all throw up. So that's that. I'm very, very pleased with how that came out. It was really fun. And so that's going to go to Galleria. So if you're going, you'll get to see that there. Then the other project, I'm pretty sure I owe Jennifer lunch or something because of this one. She and I periodically will have a race to finish something. And it's usually my challenge. And it's usually a result of her saying, ugh, I want to stitch this, but I just don't know why. I just don't want to start it. And blah, blah, blah. And I say, race, yeah. And so then we have a race. And we always have a prize. And she always wins, and I never give her a prize. So, sorry, Jen. I owe you, like, dinner and a martini, I think, from what I remember. I don't remember what the other one was we did. But anyway, so this was one of those where I finished the stitching a couple of years ago. Couple of years ago. I mean, like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. And I don't know. But anyway, I have charts on order because it's not in my shop. So this chart is still available. So watch my shop next week and I should have a bunch of these in for charts. But I already had the box. I had all the stuff finished. I just needed to sit down and do the darn thing. And so it's really silly. Like, you get these things where it's like, why don't I finish that? And if you just start finishing it, you're like, oh, this is fun. And it didn't take any time, and I love it. It didn't take no time. It took some time, but I had fun. And so this is going to be glary, but I'll open it up so you can see. Oop. So this is a Blackbird Designs, and it's called, I wrote it down, Casting a Spell. So this is a box, and I'll open it in a second, that you get at Hobby Lobby, and it comes unfinished. And the directions for finishing it are in the pattern. And I just followed those pretty much to the T. And it turned out perfectly. And so I know it's not any harder than smashing paint on here with a foam brush, letting it dry. You buff some of it off with a little bit of sandpaper, and then you rub Minwax into it, which I'll talk about in a bit. So I'll open it up. Now I did something a little bit different with this, and I'm now that it's all together, I'm super happy I did. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. So there it is. I used kind of it's an R&R 30 count linen. No, I don't remember what it is. No, I don't know what it is. Don't email me and ask me if I know what it is. I don't remember. I know it's a color they used to make. I don't know if they still make it. I kind of doubt they do. I think it had an autumn-like name, but it's a 30 count, and it's kind of a pale yellow orange. I'm going to try to find a substitute with Weeks Dye Works for this one, because I think you definitely could, and they make all the colors. You almost could use carrot, but it would need to be more yellow than that. But I think I just used the threads that it called for, and it's really, really cute, don't you think? And so these here I built up with just layers of cardboard, and then I put batting underneath each and stretched them around chipboard, and everything's just hot glued in there. But it's all done. It's super cute. Who did I show it to? Steve or Harrison? I was like, hey, look at my neat box. Harrison was like, oh my gosh, I really like that. What do you do with that? I'm like, display it. I mean, you could definitely put stuff in here, but it makes a really cute display. Jen finished hers lickety split, of course, and she has hers hanging on the wall. I don't know if she used like the 3M hanging strips. You definitely could do that, and it would be super cute. And I could do that. But I'm going to take it to market too. So you'll get to see me. If you go to Galleria, you'll see this too, if I don't forget it, which I won't. I might. I won't. Okay. And then there are two pieces that I worked on a little bit this week as I had time. I don't have all this stuff here. I try to be really organized for you guys. That's how much I care. I care about you guys. I care enough to be organized for you guys. Okay. So one of them is Autumn's Fruitful Labor by Brenda Gervais. And it's really cute. I have this in my shop. Link below. And here it is so far. It's really fun to work on. Somebody said, what's this? And I feel like it's a tall, weird basket with a pumpkin sticking out of the top, or like a cornucopia. I don't know, but I like it. And so what I have left, you can see I've got this line of little birds and sunflowers. So what I have left is just the words and then another line. And so I'll get this done. The top part was the tricky part. That's where the pumpkin area, that's solid stitching. But it shouldn't take long. And I love to stitch words. It says, I'll read it to you so you know what it says. When the year from fruitful labor turns to rest, founts of warmth and comfort in my being flow. Bet you thought it was going to rhyme. It did not. That's what's called creativity. And then the other one I worked on, Emily C. Emily C., if you follow her on Instagram, she's Eclectic Possessions. Her stitching is so good. Her stitching is good. She works on pretty projects. Her fabric is always really cool. Her threads are always really cool. And she's been working on the village of Hawk Run Hollow, also in my shop, link below. And I've wanted to start this one for years, and the houses of Hawk Run Hollow also. And she's been working on this one, I think. And I started this during Stitch Mania. And the other day, I was like, I should pull that back out because I only got a little bit done because you know how Stitch Mania is. And so I'm working on it, and I'm almost done with the first square, and it's so pretty. And it has a snake in the bottom, see it? And so there's a little river in there. And it's really fun to stitch. I'm stitching it in silks that I have, so if I don't have a color that is called for, I just find something close. The fabric I'm using is Grandpa's Sleeve, 40 count, by Jude Designs, link below. And you know, a lot of people will ask, like, they'll go like, oh, that fabric looks so messy. Like, why would you stitch it on something messy? Here's what you have to remember. When you frame something, you're coming right in on it, okay? So I'm going to just fold, let's fold this in and this in. Once you get it in the frame, see, you just see little spots of discoloration, but it's not like, you don't see all those splotches because you stitch over a lot of it and then you come in on the sides. So don't be afraid to stitch on fabric that's got a lot of pizzazz because you're going to cover a lot of it up. The only thing that I would say personally that I don't care for is really, really variegated threads on top of really festive fabric. So like if the fabric's got a lot of splotches and swirls and things and it's bright colors, and then then you put this little boy, he just loves to be held. And then if you put really variegated threads on top of it, it's like a lot to look at, and I feel like it just can get really busy looking. So I feel personally that if you have a really busy fabric and you're doing like a one color design, use like either a solid, just like Anchor or DMC, or use some kind of over dyed where it's just super, super subtle variegation. And I think it turns out a lot prettier. Okay, those are my FFOs and UFOs for the week. Whips. Okay, today I wanted to do a list of 10, and I'm going to talk about 10 designers that I like and why I like them. And this is not an all-inclusive list. This isn't all of the designers that I like. I like other designers too. So if your favorite isn't in this list, or you're like, oh my gosh, she didn't say, later, I'll do them on another list. But I wanted to just highlight 10 designers that I've stitched some of their things and carried them in my shop and seen the models and talked to them at market, and just people that I like. And so, and these are not in any particular order, and these are 10 that I like. So the first one that I like is the Scarlet Letter. And she has been operating out of Wisconsin for a long, long time, decades. And I consider, gosh, what's her name? Getting old sucks. I'm going to put her name here. Can't remember her name. She's awesome. She's like the queen mother of all sampler reproductions. To me, she just, okay, so here's what I like about her. She picks amazing samplers to reproduce. And, you know, a lot of times she'll work with museums, or she buys samplers, and she gets samplers that are amazing, really cool, all different centuries, all different types. If you go to her website, I'll link below, you can get Quaker samplers and English samplers and American samplers and Spanish samplers and you know, Scottish samplers and samplers from the 1700s and samplers from the 1800s and, you know, pieces of tapestries. And it's just cool. She has cool everything. And if you love reproduction samplers, you could stitch hers forever, forever, forever and not even make a dent in what she's released over the last decades. I'm showing one each of things that I've done. This one I've never highlighted before. I don't carry this. It's a little kit. I don't remember what it's called. My Beloved, maybe. And it was just a little reproduction sampler or reproduction style sampler that I stitched. Steve and I were married in 1990, but I stitched this probably like right around 2000 maybe-ish. And it was really fun to do. It's tiny. The cross stitches are over one thread, and the trees have specialty stitches for the leaves and the bark, and the lawn is also a specialty stitch, and the little flowers have specialty stitches. The border is done over 2 threads. So even though this is a tiny little piece, it's got a ton of different specialty stitches. So I like her because, like I said, she just picks out amazing samplers. She knows a ton about samplers. She has really good taste. And I just think there's always just something to learn and see. She does a great job. Shepherd's Bush is another sampler, and it's Tina and Terry, and I like them both. And I pulled this one off the wall. I have tons of Shepherd's Bush on my walls because I used to just stitch tons of Shepherd's Bush, and I have lots in my stash. Some are still in my whips. This one is Bees Buzzing, and this they originally designed as a wall hanging, and I think they stitched theirs on like jute, like burlap or something, and made it into a banner. And when it came out, I was like, gosh, that'd make a cute small piece, and it sure does. And I think it's cute, cute, cute. And I'll put a link to all these people below so you can go find their shops. Shepherd's Bush, that's how I really started to learn to love samplers and specialty stitches and things like that, because even though they were designing modern samplers, I'm knocking things over here. They used a lot of old stitches. And they always had really clear instructions on how to do them in their kits. And so I learned to do a lot of specialty stitches with their kits. They always use such pretty colors, just like plums and purple and mint and, you know, blue greens and pale gold. And you just can kind of tell their palette. It's very just soft and feminine and pretty. And they always have cool embellishments, and their fabric choices are really cool. And they have a lot of great charts too. Their stockings are really beautiful. And they just really are the sweetest ladies. So, so, so nice. And they just have been at it for decades too. And so check them out. Kathy Barrick is another one. And I've shown this one recently because this is a recent finish. But this is Miss Elizabeth Perkins. And I just showed you the one I'm working on of hers, the Hawk Run piece. Kathy is really, she is a smart lady. And she's very nice. And she comes up with great designs, and I really love her color palette. And I'm carrying a lot of her patterns now on my website, and I think even some of them are, you know, 20 years old. They still look great. And she will pick colors that you're like, ooh, how are these colors going to go together? And they do. Like, she just does a great job. And her things are really fun to stitch because she likes wonky too, and so things aren't necessarily symmetrical. A lot of her pieces that she designs herself look like they could be old pieces, but they definitely, when you see them, you're like, that's a Kathy Barrick. You know exactly. I found another piece that I think I'm going to take to the frame shop this week because I might take this to market too. This was a little silk gauze piece that I did of 5 of Kathy's charts. So each of these little sections is a separate chart that you can get. But I did it on silk gauze. So it's tiny, but it's so cute. And I thought, I tried to come, what could I show you for scale? Oh, here's an avocado for scale. So see, you can see how small that is compared to an avocado. You get the idea of what size it is. So very, very cute. And Charity, Faith, Honor, Hope, and Love are the 5. And the one that I like is the Love with that blue strawberry. Look at how cute that is. I love blue strawberries. I just do. Brenda Gervais is somebody who is newer to the cross stitch community, you know, not new, but newer. And I started carrying her things right away in my shop. I think when you know, Norton Crafts used to distribute her things. She is the sweetest lady, so talented. And I carried them, and people are all like, oh, I love Brenda Gervais. And I love Brenda Gervais too. And up until last year, I had never stitched anything that she had done. And it's not because I didn't like her. I had some in my stash. But I went on a trip and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start stitching a Brenda Gervais. And now I have a bunch of things that I've finished or am working on. So this is Thankful, Grateful, Thankful, Blessed, also in my shop. I like that white pumpkin at the top, sitting on top of the house with the curly thing. It looks like a blamage. And little birds and things and keys and people. It was really fun to stitch. I stitched mine, I think, on 36 count Ren by Picture This Plus. But, okay, here's what I like about Brenda. Her pieces are fun to stitch. I think it's good to consider, like, who you like stitching and why do you like stitching them. So here's why I like what Brenda does. Her pieces have lots of little elements. So it's like, oh, I'm going to stitch a bird. Now I'm going to stitch a person. Now I'm going to stitch some pumpkins. And you're constantly feeling like you're finishing something. I think, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, I used to finish things that had a lot more colors and were a lot more intricate and had a lot of back stitching. And then the problem gets to be that you feel like it takes forever until you can see something. And so Brenda, you're constantly filling things in and you're like, yes, 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 I'm finishing this. And her sense of color is also really great. And she's another one that you can look at her piece and go, I know who stitched that. Or who designed that. That's a Brenda Gervais. And she's very creative. She creates small series so you can kind of collect things that kind of go together. So, you know, you might have, you know, like a little oval box is one series she did. And there's one for spring and one for Christmas and one for Halloween. And she really considers the seasons. I feel like she's very good at creating seasonal things. And a lot of hers are, you know, medium-sized projects to small projects, which makes them easier to, you know, finish up. Not that she hasn't done some big projects, but she's just really great. Okay, Blackbird Designs, of course. Got to talk about Alma and Barb. This is the one that everybody's been working on, called Birds of a Feather. And I think it's so pretty. This one, I stitched this one a long time ago. Like, I liked this when it came out, and I had it in my shop, and I was like, isn't this cool? And everybody went, wah, wah. I don't know why people didn't. But, like, how could you not like those flowers? They're like lollipops. And this was so fun to do. They charted theirs for needlepoint silks, and I just substituted a bunch of overdyed threads. I think limited editions. No, I don't have the list, and I don't remember. But they're just little shots of blue up against this red. And then, let's see, can I see it? Oh yeah, so this one has I don't know if you can see it. It's like a chain stitch around it. That was really fun to do. The birds are really cute. I love it when colors fade onto the fabric because that's what old samplers do. You get these colors that have faded to be almost the color of the fabric. Here's what I like about Barb and Alma. Again, their pieces are fun to stitch. Again, it's lots of little finishes, you know, and again, medium to smaller size projects. Their colors are very pretty. Their designs look historic, but also modern. And I don't know, they're just, and they're also like really nice, smart, funny ladies, very talented people. And so I love what they do. I love collecting their patterns, and I love stitching them too. They're fun to stitch. Okay, Birds of a Feather. Do I have a Birds of a Feather? Oh, I do. It's right here. Okay, this is going to be kind of a different one. I don't have this in my shop yet, but you know what? I'm going to order some this week so that you can get them if you want them, because I think it's still available. This one is spring sampler, I think, or summer sampler. They only did spring and summer, but I think in their needlepoint canvases you might be able to get other seasons. And Mona from who's affiliated with the Silver Needle in Tulsa did the finishing for me in a box. And it's very bright and colorful. A lot of times their patterns are more subdued, lots of browns and blacks and dark colors. And I did a highlight about Nancy a number of videos ago, but she was a very sweet lady, also very talented, with a very artistic eye, and she had a really great eye for color too. Because like this up here, this is like an aqua color next to like a lime, kind of almost olivey green, and you think like, oh, how's that going to work? And it just looks really, really great. This was fun to stitch. And she too, it was one that you could look at and know exactly who designed those pieces. Her things looked primitive, but also modern in a way. And she a lot of times used Weeks Dye Works, and that color palette seemed to really work for her, I feel like. Okay, Prairie Schooler. Who doesn't like Prairie Schooler? This is one that I think it might be called like Autumn Leaves or something like that, and I think this is available again as a reprinted chart. I did this as a Kit of the Month, and it was probably my most popular Kit of the Month ever, because I redid the colors into crescent colors, so it was over dyed. I don't have the list anymore, sorry, but really what you do to convert colors is just take out the DMC that's called for and match them up against the threads you have and see what's close. That's all I do when I do a conversion. So Prairie Schooler is great because, once again, it's a very definable look. Somehow, some of these patterns that are 25 or 30 years old still look absolutely great. Like they're primitive, they're historic looking, but they're also modern. And again, you can see all of these lots of little elements. I like things that are not symmetrical because I get bored stitching the same thing over and over again. So there's just a lot to love with her patterns, as far as just a lot of little things going on. A lot of times she would use just kind of the same colors over and over again, like, you know, like the 919, that range. And it worked for her. Like her pieces still look awesome. And okay, who else? Barbara Anna is somebody that, again, I haven't stitched until recently. I carry her designs in my shop, and I feel like in a way you get to see several sides of her, because she has samplers that are, you know, look like a modern take on an old sampler. But then she also has pieces that are kind of whimsical and silly, more like a Lizzie Kate. And I think it's really cool that she must design what she wants to design. And this was the first one that I ever stitched of hers. But I used to carry them, and I do carry them now. And this was just DMC, which I love that. And I used just a little piece of hand-dyed fabric, and the colors are really cool. And it stitched up really quickly. I think she's really neat. Oh, she has some really big pieces that people I know are working on, and I think that they look like they would be a lot of fun to do too. But I haven't done them yet. Okay, two more. Number 9, Heartstring Samplery. So talented. My friend Kathy stitched this for me and got the frame on Etsy, I think. But it's really cool. It's a strawberry sampler. I think it's part of a chart that you get a couple of different samplers in with it. It's got the little chickens too. Very, very cute. She's doing so many great things these days with finishing. She's got all these little ornament sets that she's doing. And I feel like you really see her sense of humor in a lot of her pieces, which I think is neat too. She's got a number of designs that are, you know, kind of coffee themed and kind of silly themed, or have, you know, kind of humorous sayings. And then she has historic things, and she has religious samplers that she does, and she's done some reproductions. And I just feel like she's really creative. She's got a great sense of color. Again, you see, not symmetrical. This border doesn't go all the way around. And I love stitching letters. I think if you look at a lot of these, you're looking at a lot of letters. I don't know why. Some people say, oh, I hate stitching letters. I love it because I feel like it goes really quickly. And if you're working with a variegated thread, you kind of see those color changes come through real easily. And I enjoy that. I'll put a link to her Etsy shop below. She's delightful. And the last one I'm going to talk about today is Bright Needle. Now, they're not designing anymore. And I've stitched a few of their things, and I've carried them over the years. You can find a lot of their charts these days on eBay, or you can find them on Etsy or maybe on Stash Unload. Their designs, this was one of their 9-patch, and they had a number of these. And it was really fun to stitch. This one is over 1 thread on a 32 count. And I really enjoyed stitching this one. I remember, yeah, there it is, 2002. I actually put the year in there. I remember stitching this at Nashville Needlework Market. I had taken it along as something to work on, and I really like their designs. And they were another one that you would get their floss lists, and people would get a little bit ticked sometimes at the thread list for those, because it would be like, here's 2 colors of Australian silks, and here's some anchor threads, and here's some DMC, and then there's going to be some sampler threads, and there might be a week's dye works. And it's like, how many brands of threads do you need for one piece? Just pick some colors, right? That's what they'd just be like, just pick a company, because you feel like it's a treasure hunt trying to find all these different thread colors. One of them, I don't remember which one, has the it's not a disorder really. She has synesthesia, which is people for whom their senses are combined in some ways. So like some people may look at a color and they hear musical tones, or they taste colors that they see. Like they touch something and it rings some bells or whatever. They experience things in different ways visually. And so those colors, I remember her telling me once, the color, it's just like she would know exactly what color she needed, and sometimes it wasn't available in a particular type of thread. And so I know, because I've gathered threads before for these, you get them all together and you're like, what? This doesn't look, these aren't pretty colors at all. Like they don't even look pretty together. And then you put them together and they're beautiful. Like it totally works. And so it's kind of a fun project, because you're thinking like, this is not gonna look good, and it totally looks good, and you're like, yes. So those are 10 designers that I like and why I like them. I'll do another one, not next time necessarily, but another day. And so remember, those are not my 10 favorite, those are 10 that I like. I think it's fun to like lots of different designers and not continually stitch from the same designer all the time. It's fun to like, do different things. Okay. This week I was thinking about wrong lyrics to songs. I don't know if you sing songs where you're like, I don't know the words, and so you just kind of sing them the way you want to. And so the one that my mind kind of runs on just like auto, like just tumbling, and songs will just come to my mind that have no business. And so one of the songs that I started singing this week is called Two of Us by Lennon and McCartney of the Beatles, and it's a song that not a lot of people maybe would know. But part of it, Paul sings, you and I have memories longer than the road that stretches out ahead. And I always, I know what the words are, but this is how I sing it. You and I have memories longer than the road that stretches out ahead. Because your boobs are long. That's how I sing it, because I think it's funny. My dad sings, olden days, happy schmolden days of yore. He sings schmolden. And so that's how I sing that song too, the Christmas song. But it's fun to be silly, isn't it? Okay, so I'm having a prize drawing as usual. I have two. I have two different ones. So the prize for this week, I'm gonna make sure there's no dust on it. I found it at a thrift store, and it is a Norman Rockwell plata. And it's a man threading a needle, and there's a kitten looking in the sewing box. And so the drawing is for this plate. and I will ship it to you. And so the question, so don't say drawing, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to be a subscriber. You don't even have to really like me that much, but you can enter. Everybody can enter. Just don't say drawing. And if you're young, ask your mom or dad if it's okay. So what is a song lyric that you sing wrong or you sang wrong, like that you never really understood it, or something that you've heard sung wrong, and what was it? But if you can't really think of one of those, you can just tell me what one of your favorite songs is. Now, I'm going to make you wait to find out last week's winner because I forgot to draw for it. So I will tell you the winner at the end of the video, I promise. So you'll have to stick around to the end to find out who won. But that's the prize for this time. Now, I also went to Seattle recently, and my sister took out all her cross-stitch stuff, and there was things that she was like, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. And there was one of these that she doesn't want it, and I thought, she said, just do what you want. And so it's this Lizzie Kate. Now, this was the kit, so I used to sell these when it was a kit, and she later released it as a pattern, and I believe the proceeds went to charity. Oh, it said it has a surprise gift, too. I don't know what the gift was. It's not in there, but the threads are in there, and the charms are in there. And the threads are, I don't know if they're all in there. I don't know. But the chart comes with a list, and it's sampler threads. And she has some of it stitched. And I've seen it finished, and it's cute as can be. And so if you're interested in this, I don't know what count fabric it's on. I would guess it's a 28 count maybe. Yeah, it's probably 28 count. If you're interested in this, just say Secret Garden somewhere in your comment. You can work it in a clever way if you want. But I'll just draw from the people who want that for the Secret Garden. We'll find it a good home. Okay. Zine news. I don't have much because I'm working on the second issue, but I have some big name people that have agreed to participate in future issues, so I'm very excited about that. I've been super happy still with the reception to it, and you can still download it. You'll always be able to download it on my site. I do need more input from you. If you would like, my email address is below. Send me pictures of yourself with a sampler that you've stitched, and just a little bit about yourself, and I'll put you in. I like to have a stitcher's gallery. I've got a couple of people in for this time, but I could use a couple more, so don't be shy. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. I get sad when women say, like, you know, I don't like to have my picture taken, you know, or you have those people that are in your life that you pull your camera up and they go like this. You're lovely. Like, I think it's so sad that we think poorly of ourselves, or you know what I mean? Like, we're not supermodels. That doesn't mean we're hideous. It just means we don't make a living from our faces, and that's okay. So don't be afraid to have your picture taken. And so send me a picture of you with a sampler. And then I'm looking also for, I'm going to be working on a feature about stitching groups. So if you're part of a stitching group, especially if it's sampler focused, and you've got a good story, or you just want to tell me about your group, or you've got some pictures of your group getting together, I would love that. I think it would be really cool if we had articles, you know, that were written at the time when people used to get together and work on quilts together, or if they were working, you know, on their needlework in a school. Wouldn't that be cool to like have their first-hand experience? So that's kind of what I'm going for, is to just write an article about what it is about getting together that's fun. Okay, what am I all into? I'm into whole foods. You know, I'm on the Whole30 diet. I was on the Whole30 diet. I still am. I just have added back some foods. I kind of thought it was silly that I could eat as much bacon and drink as much fruit juice as I wanted, but I couldn't have beans or yogurt with granola in it, you know? So I'm sticking to that idea of working with ingredients when I eat. So the closer things are to a single thing, like milk or berries or dried apricots, I'm trying to go no, you know, like added sugars, no added colors, no preservatives, no whatever. And so I like that. I think that's good. I think it's good to eat that way. We always used to eat that way, probably. And then things got more convenient, and then food got real crazy. Okay, I'm into Minwax paste. And this was, where did I put it? So this project that I showed you, this. The directions called for this. Did they? It didn't call for this color necessarily. It called for maybe a different color. And so what you do is you can paint something, and then you, the directions said to, like, you know, use sandpaper and sand some of it down to make it look beat up. And then you put this on, and this you just get at like Lowe's or Home Depot. And it's called Special Dark, but I didn't find really that it added much color at all. But it's like a really thick waxy paste, and you just kind of, you know, like this, and then rub it on what you've got, and it goes on soft, but then you let it sit for 15 minutes, and then you buff it, and it makes it shiny, and it makes it more like a kind of a furniture polish finish. So you can see how that, like that, it's got a luster. See, like, look along in here. See how it's got that luster? And it doesn't really smell. The paste does smell, and they tell you to work in a ventilated area, but one of these is going to last forever. And so what I did with this one is I put a little tiny piece of a rag in there that I used, and I'll just let it stay in there, and I can use that each time until it gets too gross. But so there's that. And then I was just going to share one of these little, you know, household tips, hints from Heloise, right? I like to cut up old towels. So if I've got towels where they've got holes in them, or they're getting ragged on the ends and we're not going to use them anymore, I cut them into pieces that are, you know, like, I might cut a towel into 6 big pieces, and it doesn't really matter what size they are. But then these are great rags, and you can wash them. So it's kind of like paper towels that you can use over and over again. You can use it to clean up a quick spill, or polish something, or clean something, and then I just throw it in, you know, with towels and things to wash. And I use them and use them and use them and use them and use them, and eventually they get worn out too, and then they just go in the trash. But it's a way of kind of reusing something for another purpose. I even sometimes, like for this project, I don't necessarily want to wash, you know, the stuff with the chemicals on it. And so I'm just going to, I just cut a chunk off and use it and then throw that away. But that's kind of a handy little tip from your Uncle Lair. So, okay, I'm all into, so this week I ordered my mom some flowers. She got some, not happy news from the doctor. She's okay. It's not life-threatening, but it's just kind of a bummer. She has to have another mole taken off of her nose. She's had so many moles taken off her nose, and she just was very discouraged to hear she's got another one that's going to have to come off. And so I sent her flowers, which is nice to do for people, I feel. Sometimes it's hard, like, to know what to get somebody, and I think sometimes people who are a little bit older, it's like, what do they really need? They pretty much have everything, and flowers can be a nice little pick-me-up. And I told the boys afterwards, they said, if you ever order flowers, I don't use the places where it's like you order flowers online, because sometimes, you know, they're just a go-between. So it's like then they call the local place and have the local place do it, but they take a cut. So I Google the town that I'm sending them to and look up somebody that's got good reviews and go with them and call them directly on the phone. And it's nice to talk to them. When I order flowers, a lot of times they'll say, well, what do you have in mind? And I think it's good to be real open with what you want, because you might say, well, like, oh, she loves whatever, geraniums, tulips, whatever. Could you do some geraniums? Well, the geraniums that they have might be kind of tough looking, you know what I mean? But you specifically asked for geraniums. So I always just say something cheerful. I think I pretty much every time say something cheerful, just something cheerful. And they're always so pretty, and you just kind of are giving them license to put something together that's real pretty and fun and vibrant, and you know that they're picking the stuff that looks really good. I got a new stool, and I'm gonna show it real quick off of Amazon. So this is a massage stool. I mean, it doesn't massage my butt. It's a stool for masseuses. Do you think Dr. Seuss had a masseuse who was a Seuss masseuse? So, anyway, I don't need arms and a back. When I'm working here and packing up your orders, I'm doing this and I'm shifting and I'm grabbing and I'm going this way and then I'm coming in from the back. And I don't want to have to work around the back and arms of a big chair. This stool spins, like it'll spin and spin and spin, and it doesn't get higher or lower because of the spinning. It has one of those little levers that you can lift it up or down. And it was $59. It's super heavy duty. And I'm going to get another one for over there in front of the desk that I work at. Also, I have another desk to the side here because it, like I said, it's easy to get on and off of. It's very sturdy. And it doesn't take up a lot of visual space. You know what I mean? This is a small room, and so I have to come up with ways to save space any way that I can. And so these stools are kind of a good way to go. Okay, the last thing that I'm all into is savings apps. And it's one of the cool, it's like Big Brother's watching you, right? It's super weird. Sometimes I'll be online. Like this week, Target outlet, Target whatever, factory, Gap Factory had a sale, and I bought some stuff, and then I went on Instagram later and they showed me stuff from the Gap, and I'm like, you guys, you're all in cahoots with each other. I don't care, whatever. I don't care. So, but I like those apps that you can get on your phone. Yesterday I was in line at Hobby Lobby, and there was a woman behind me, and she had like kind of a cool looking shelf in her cart. And I said, oh, what'd you find there? And she said, oh, I found this shelf. It's really cool. I wish it was on sale. I said, oh, do you have the Hobby Lobby app? And she said, no, what's that? And I explained it to her. They have a coupon that you can use once a day for 40% off any full price item. And most of us probably know that. But you download the app for free. You can see what's on sale that week, and you have a coupon that you can use. You can do the same for Michael's, the same for Joann's, and the same for a lot of places. I do Shoe Station. Target's got a cool app that you can get extra savings on. And so I helped this lady download the app so she could get 40% off of that. And she was like, oh my gosh, you totally made my day. I'm going to have to come here all the time now because I can always get 40% off. It's really super handy. And, it used to be that I used to help my mom clip coupons once a week. We would get on Wednesdays, the Fargo Forum would come in. And I remember that you could get a subscription to the newspaper for just Sunday, for Saturday and Sunday, for every day of the week, or like for Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. Because Wednesday was the day that the circulars came out that said what was on sale at Hornbacher's and Osco Buttrey and all those other places, Piggly Wiggly. And so Hornbacher's always had the back page full of coupons, and I would have to cut them all out, and you'd stand in line and you'd give them the coupons. Now you just have like these little apps, and they just scan it, and you get the savings. I think that's great. And like I said, they're watching us. They're compiling that evidence for some reason. And, if they know that I like Charmin, I'm fine with that. I don't know what the government's going to do with that information that's going to hurt me in any way. But I'm all into savings app and all those other things. And as always, that's what I'm all into this week. So I've got 2 things left to do. I'm going to talk about 3 things from my shop, as I always do, and then I'm going to come back here at the end and talk about who last week's winner was. I don't even know yet. So 3 things in my shop. I'm adding things all the time. I'm adding things. I've got, I think, almost 900 items in my shop now. 900 different items. Like not 900 charts total and fabrics, like 900 different items. And so one of the things that I way expanded this week was carriage house samplings. And I'm going to just flash some of the ones that I carry here. So like I said in my list of 10, I love Kathy Barrick's designs. And I remember, oh gosh, it must have been like 2014 or something, she announced that she was retiring. And I knew she wasn't going to retire all the way. I knew it. She needed a break. She totally needed a break, I'm sure. And you just get kind of burned out on it, I think, after a number of years. And so she, her sister Marty eventually took over the old Carriage House sampling, and now she's designing pieces still under the Carriage House samplings title. But I've got tons of Kathy Barrick's old Carriage House samplings patterns. In fact, I think I've got more than 80 of Carriage House samplings, and then I've got another page of just Kathy Barrick's newer stuff. And so I'm super excited about this. A lot of these things you're going to think like, oh, I didn't know that was still in print. Oh my gosh, I never saw that one. I mean, these things go back to like the 90s, and they're still so cute. I just love them all. And so, and the thing is, like, they're priced the same as they were priced back then. And so a lot of them really aren't even expensive at all. And so definitely take a look on the Carriage House Samplings page and on the Kathy Barracks page. I'm carrying Silk Weaver. What? So, you know, I love Silk Weaver fabric, and I think, you know, people get discouraged sometimes because it's hard to get a hold of and it's a long wait, but it's good fabric. So I thought, you know, why don't I just order a bunch of fabric and then just be happy to wait for it. So they have a standing order with me for like, here are all the colors that I eventually want to get. And it's like a bunch of one color. So I kind of want them to send one big bunch of the same color in 5 different counts every month. But it may be 6 or 8 weeks wait, but I'll just put it up when I get it. So the first color came in, and it is French Vanilla Swirl. French Vanilla Swirl. Very pretty sampler color. All of the colors that I've selected are sampler type colors. I'm not getting, you know, like pinks or blues or bright greens and things like that. I want practical neutrals. And so I've got a bunch of this. I've got it in 16 count Ada, 28 count Cashel, 32 count Belfast, 36 count Edinburgh, and 40 count Newcastle. And so you can buy it by the quarter yard on my website. And it's in my hand-dyed fabrics page. Okay, and then another thing that I'm kind of excited about. Oh, I missed some. I lied to you. I've got one other segment. I have things on order from Martingale Press. I think some books. I have some Yoko Sato books, and the new Maggie Bonanami is on the way. But I got to thinking about some past books put out by the Kansas City Star Quilting Company. And I love these. They're not in print anymore, meaning the publisher does not have anymore. So like as a shop, you can't call the publisher and order these. But I found a few resources to get these books brand new, including this one, Tending the Garden. And this is a quilting book, but what's that? That is a sampler, and this book has the pattern for that sampler. And right now, I think in my shop, I've got 10 of these, but I've got 18 more of these books on the way. There are 2. There's this little pincushion is in there. So if you like stitching, and then there's this, I gotta try to not show the chart. There's this little samplers in there too. But then there's all kinds of cool other projects in there too. And it's really, really cool. And that's $22. I'm going to get as many of these as I can, but my sources are eventually going to run out. And I also got in a couple of out-of-print titles from Maggie. And I thought this one was so cute. And now there's no cross-stitch in this one, but there's like rug hooking, applique, quilting, crafting. She's got some strawberries that you can make in this one. And I've got another one of her books, or another 2 of her books. But they're just fun quilty applique projects and really good instructions. It even smells good. And these are in brand new condition, like they've never been owned. They're shiny, squeaky clean. They're new books. They've never been owned, and they're just. But you know, like some of these came out 10 years ago. This one came out in 2011, and I've got a bunch of copies of this one too. But I've got more that I found on the way. And so just watch out for those. I've got links to a few of those on the front page of my website. And then if you go to the section of my website called Cool Stuff and Other Junk, you'll find them there too. Okay, I forgot to do my stash flash, so I'm going to make this as quick as possible. I got a Linda Jo bag. It's so pretty, isn't it? She sells them on her Etsy site, and it's very, very pretty. And I was super thrilled to get it. Here's the back. So it's got the clear vinyl so you can see what project is in. I like that it's uppy downy. And look at that cute red zipper. So I love this bag. And Linda Jo is the bomb! I found on eBay. I was digging around on eBay the other day, and sometimes there are books that I'm like sort of looking for, but I never can find them, you know, or they're just way too expensive. And so there's this book put out by Just Cross Stitch, the Chester County collection with 7 samplers. You can tell already I have it in my hot hands. if you find it, it's like $120, $111. And I can't justify it. I can't justify it. But $20. $20 free shipping. $20 free shipping. And so it's got the charts for all of these samplers in it. And they're really cool. So all 7 of those charts are in here. So maybe you want to watch out for this one now too. I think this one might have been somebody who like didn't know, here are the reproductions. I love, look at the little hills on that. So cute. I think it looked like this was the only cross-stitchy thing that this seller had. And otherwise it was like a lot of clothes and just household stuff. And it almost seemed like somebody who was selling just stuff from their home and maybe stuff from garage sales or something. So I snapped this up at $20. It was a buy it now. Okay, like I said, I'm getting into stitching Brenda Gervais, and I guess I went a little overboard. I got some new charts from her in this week. I finally got my hands on Indigo Lane for my shop. I've been trying forever. It's always out of stock at the suppliers, but it comes with this really cool little project that's a little box that you make, and I'm kind of infatuated with that. And the instructions are in how to finish it. I love this one. I saw this at Market. Look at that sideways B-skip. See, that's the kind of funny little element that Brenda puts in that just makes me love her designs. And I love her wacky skirt. She has a new reproduction too. I bet you may not have known that Brenda does reproductions of samplers. And I thought this was just charming with the 2 little black dogs. And then Farmyard Parade. This little gentleman and gentlewoman. Nice colors, sweet little pieces. And then my last stash flash item is something I had talked about on a video recently as a unicorn item. And I know that there are a lot of people that are doing, you know, like my stitchy wish list or my stitching wish list on, you know, with a hashtag on Instagram, and finding people that have charts that they've been looking for. And anyway, somebody contacted me about this one, and she said, I have that. Would you like to do a trade? And we worked out a trade, and I have it. And I'm super excited because I really wanted this chart. And a friend of mine back in the day stitched these all on one piece over one, and oh my gosh, was it cute. It was really, really cute. That's my stash flash. All right, so I'm going to come back in just a minute and tell you who won last time, and I'll be right back. I'm going to go draw. Okay, I'm back. I drew, and the winner of last week's prize is Carol Courtney. Carol Courtney. Carol Courtney. You're the winner, and you win your choice of a quarter yard of any fabric that you want to choose from my website. And so you just get a hold of me, you go look at my website, find any fabric that you want, and for no charge at all, I will send you a quarter yard of any fabric of your choosing from my website. So congratulations, Carol. My question last time was, what is it that you like about fall? Because I feel like fall is in the air. The leaves are starting to fall, and it's starting to look like fall, even though it's still hot outside, it looks like fall. And she said she loves crisp leaves and spices and respite from the summer heat. And she mentioned a movie called The Trouble with Harry by Alfred Hitchcock, and she was not the only person to mention that movie. And I guess there's something about that movie that's really, you know, kind of autumn related, pretty scenery, that kind of thing. And so I'll have to go see if I can find that. But Carol, you are the winner. Congratulations. Let me tell you, I got season sick for fall, reading all your comments about what you like about fall. And the funny thing is, I was like, what's your favorite thing about fall? Everybody named like 10 things because everybody loves everything about fall. The weather, the beautiful colors, the food, being inside and cozy. And I just love fall. And it, you know, I feel like it's kind of a gyp. Like we don't get 3 months of fall. I feel like we get 2 months of fall. I feel like fall is September and October, and November, maybe. I'm going to just try to mentally, like fall starts now, September 1st. And then I'm going to make it last until the day after Thanksgiving. I'm just going to be in a fall mood with spices and pumpkins and things. But everybody likes fall. I think there was one person who didn't care for fall, and then one person reminded me that it's not fall below the equator. They're heading into spring, and I always forget that. I always forget that we're on opposite climates. So that is all I have for you this week. That was a lot. That's all I got, though. That's all I got. Don't ask for more, because that's all I got. I will see you next time. Hope you have a great Labor Day weekend, empty of labor. Bye!